The scandal engulfing America and Cardinal Blas Cupich appears to be reaching a tipping point. His decision to award Senator Dick Durbin has split the church. Never before have so many bishops cried foul, speaking of confusion and division. On the table are not just symbols, but relationships of power and money that fuel suspicion. Now, many are expecting a recall from Pope Leo. Stay with us until the end to find out how it will end. A story is unfolding in the United States that combines political power, ecclesiastical hierarchy, and above all, money. At the center is Chicago Cardinal Blas Cupich and Senator Dick Durbin, a prominent Democratic Party figure. Their bond is not a one-off, but is based on years of intertwined relationships, also thanks to significant financial support. Durbin, as a senior member of the Senate committee that manages the allocation of federal funds, had made a publicized phone call in 2020 promising concrete help to the archdiocese, which was experiencing financial difficulties. And his words quickly turned into action. Federal aid packages poured unprecedented amounts into Chicago, including $8 million to local Catholic charities alone and $77 million from the Paycheck Protection Program, the second largest in the nation after Los Angeles. Furthermore, overall, Catholic charities have benefited $1.4 billion. These numbers cannot be ignored, as they reveal a network of relationships that goes far beyond simple personal friendships. It is in light of these data that the Cardinal's decision to award Durbin a public recognition appears anything but neutral, giving the impression that economic balances may have had a decisive influence. A gala evening is scheduled for November 3rd in Chicago to raise funds for the Archdiocese's ministry to migrants. And on that occasion, Cardinal Cupich will present Durbin with a Lifetime Achievement Award, a recognition of his career. The news caused surprise and outcry because, on the one hand, the ceremony was presented as a moment of celebration for the senator's political and institutional commitment. On the other hand, it cannot be ignored that Durbin himself has been publicly excluded from communion in his home diocese, Springfield, since 2004, with a ban reiterated in 2018. The choice to honor him, therefore, appears to be a gesture in open contradiction with respect to the discipline already established by other pastors of the Church. What Cupich describes as a tribute to years of public service, many observers see as an ambiguous signal that risks confusing the faithful, especially considering that the recognition comes in a context in which the financial aid from which the Archdiocese has benefited is tied precisely to Durbin's political influence. A combination that reinforces the impression that this is not a simple symbolic award, but an act charged with moral and ecclesial implications. Cupich's decision has not gone without consequences. Within a few days, several American bishops publicly expressed their dissent, pointing out how the decision to award Durbin is perceived as a source of scandal and confusion. Bishop Thomas Paprocki of Springfield spoke of a risk of grave scandal, while San Francisco Archbishop Salvatore Cordileone called the initiative a source of great consternation and scandal. Bishop James Conley of Lincoln was no less harsh in his judgment, finding the decision deeply disappointing and confusing. Gallup's James Wall called such a move creates confusion and division. while Green Bay's David Ricken dismissed it as a grave mistake. Carl Kemme of Wichita was blunt. This award is inappropriate and scandalous. And Michael Olson of Fort Worth observed that it sends the wrong message to the faithful. It is rare to witness such a compact and unanimous position taken by bishops from diverse and often distant dioceses. This makes clear how deep the concern is among the episcopal body. It is not an isolated criticism, but a shared alarm that underlines the risks of an award perceived as in conflict with ecclesial discipline. The dissent, made public and blunt, puts Cupich in an uncomfortable position, revealing an internal fracture within the American Church that can hardly be ignored. Faced with such intense criticism, Cupich has not responded directly to his fellow bishops, but his stance has long been known and falls within the framework of a coherent ethic of life, an approach that tends to place various social issues on the same level, from assistance to the poor to environmental and migration issues. It is in this context that the choice to award Durbin should be interpreted, presented as a recognition of his commitment to civil rights and acceptance. A vision that, however, in the eyes of many, ends up obscuring fundamental points of Catholic doctrine, generating the perception of a communications strategy rather than pastoral coherence. The silence with which Cupich accompanied the criticism reinforces the idea of a cardinal, sure of his line and willing to weather the storm in order to carry forward his vision. At the same time, this attitude risks accentuating the internal rift because the lack of official clarifications leaves the field open to increasingly conflicting interpretations. In such a delicate situation, many observers believe that a simple exchange of opinions between bishops is no longer sufficient. The widespread impression is that a public and fraternal correction is needed, clear and visible, capable of re-establishing order in ecclesial communion. A correction that, according to some, should come not only from our American brothers, but perhaps also directly from the Holy See, in the person of the Pontiff. A gesture from Leo, one might say, strong and paternal at the same time, as when the great popes of the past were not afraid to recall even the most powerful cardinals when they put the testimony of the Church at risk. The issue, in fact, does not only concern a difference in pastoral sensitivity, but touches the very heart of ecclesial credibility. Many faithful, especially those who still look to the hierarchy with trust, expect an unequivocal clarification. It is no longer enough to say that these are diversity of approaches, because what is at stake here is not a theological nuance, but the very perception of what it means to bear witness to Christ in the world. An authoritative reminder, perhaps pronounced with the same firmness that Leo the Great used in the face of the errors of his time, would not humiliate Cupich, but would serve to restore clarity and recompose the unity of the pastors before the people of God. Only a clear word from above, spoken without hesitation, could resolve the confusion now reigning in American dioceses, restoring confidence to those who fear that the institution will buckle under political and economic pressure. What do you think? If you liked the video, comment Amen. God bless you.